Today, tonight, wherever you are, we are completely honored to be in the presence of Morgan Lee, complete shining beacon of love. Thank you for showing up and being here with us.
Only for you, Rory. I'd do anything for you.
So we're going to dive into the topic of sacred sex and see what comes up. And this is something that you've experienced with, or it's come into your path, or you found it throughout your life, and you've been experiencing this for a while now. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, probably only in the last 2.5 years since I got married to Todd, mostly. Before that, I was learning about it all. I was practicing Heriascamos, which is a part of sacred sexuality. But yeah, really only in the last couple of 2.5 years.
Cool. How did you stumble into this stuff? What happened for you to make this unravel?
I think probably about 10 or 12 years ago, when I saw lots of clients like face to face, I accidentally had an experience with this gentleman who came to see me because he had an addiction to sex. And he was having sex, 5, 6, 10 times a day with women from 16 through to 90. He was a salesman and he was struggling to work because everywhere he went, women wanted to have sex with him. He was married with 3 little girls and he was very concerned it was getting worse and he was going to get caught and lose his family. So he came to see me, and this accidental merging happened, which I worked out over the years or months later doing research and everything was actually Heriascamos, where my soul and his soul actually connected. The frequency of love that happens in those connections is so powerful that the humans can mistakenly think that they're falling in love. Part of me wants to tell you the terrible story that happened with it, and the other part thinks, oh no, I will tell you actually, because it was really quite hilarious and frightening all at once. So I stayed merged with him for a 2-week period after that. I was married at the time, with a husband who had zero interest in sex basically at all. And I was running around having 10, 15, 20 orgasms a day. I mean, I couldn't even drive down the street. I'd have to pull over every 5 minutes. If I went for a walk along the beach, I had to lay down. And this man came back after 2 weeks. No one had wanted sex with him, like it had been cleared from him. So, and you felt all these, I think Todd calls them soulgasms, but like every chakra, you move up and you work with every chakra. So all the polarities between this gentleman and myself, all those chakras got sorted out. I really had the time of my life, even though it was a little bit shocking. And he came back and his sex addiction was completely gone. And I spoke to him like 5 years later and he'd never, ever cheated again. So that was my first introduction to it.
That's fascinating. Right in there in it. That's incredible to hear. Also, yeah, a wee bit frightening how these things can just happen without really being consciously aware of it happening.
Yeah, it was amazing. So after that, then I started doing some research. I knew that I'd accidentally stumbled across something huge and started to learn about it, which was a bit tricky because there wasn't much on the internet at the time. So I connected to what I call the morphic field of, back then I used to call it soul merging. I knew that our two souls had merged, and through research over the years, I found out the true name for it is Heriascamos. I connected to the morphic field of soul merging, or Heriascamos at the time, and then started learning directly what it was all about. I understood that when two humans allow this in full consciousness to happen, that if you can get past the sacral, because it is very sexual as well initially, so it'll hit you in the sacral. You allow, I think your first, it's like the door is the sacral. So you allow that first event to happen, and then you actually, with another person, start consciously merging up through the chakras, with every chakra merging is soulgasmic, which is a bit different, a lot different than just normal orgasm. It's like the whole body feels it. And then you intentionally just keep working up. You're balancing out each other's polarities. So when I met Todd, we actually first merged at the heart, which was interesting. But when we got to the throat chakra, I had a public talk that I had to do at school. I was terrified. I get very nervous talking in front of people. And I hadn't done anything for it. You know, I couldn't get onto it. I merged my throat chakra with Todd. And 3 days later, I got up in front of that class and I blasted it. But not only that, from that point, I started writing poetry, which I'd never, ever done in my life. So the merging that I had with Todd made him a bit quieter and in more control of his, you know, speaking and wanting to talk all the time. And me a little bit more extrovert or a bit more confident in speaking, and the gift of writing poetry.
Wow, it's like, it sounds essentially like alchemical fusional magic.
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah.
It really was. So what happened after that, or before Todd, so in that 10-year period, I was merging with 3 to 5 men, you know, easily a year. Every man took 2 weeks, and all of them were overseas, so I didn't have to see them. I never even saw them face to face. It was all just done through Messenger, just through typing and opening that up. And then I just kept merging with all these men, and every man I merged with, I expanded a lot more naturally. But they would walk away at the end of the 2-week period knowing everything that I knew. So there's all these men out there, I'm sure it's beyond just this too, but that now went on and merging with other women. And, you know, this organic soul merging, expanding each other, teaching each other, you know, pretty much not saying anything.
Mm. Is this anything that you guys can relate to or that you've experienced, Andy and Elena?
The creative surge of energy, the creative energy when you, like, I lost my creativity years ago and I got it back when I started uniting the masculine and feminine within all alone by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, whenever I did that merging with another person, it's like the creativity I forgot about came rushing back. Like my art, it came back. That's like, it's one of the most interesting phenomenons that I've noticed about it, about this journey and this learning experience, remembering experience.
Yeah.
I can say from my experience that from a young child, I was always highly over sexualized, and I went a lot of different ways searching for now what I would say that Harios feeling that just comes a lot more natural now that I understand what it is. But you know, through the transitioning, I went through a lot of trying to get sex in a lot of different ways because you know it was, for me, it was more of my self-worth. That's what I was trying to find in my unbalance of that. And then even recently I just really merged with somebody, you know, that was fully open, and it showed me that I had been merging with people but I didn't even know what I was doing. So like that's the part of like where when you said, Morgan, that you know, falling in love, that's what I knew like I had you know, an unbalance with, because I'm like, how am I able to fall in love with all these people? But then after doing the actual Helios work recently, I realized, just like what you were talking about, Morgan, where it's you know, in the body, of course, it's going to go to our private area, but beyond that, it's just total soul merging of our feminine and masculine, and that's what really like it. It actually taught me that I had been doing more than what I thought, but I was also, you know, doing stuff that I wasn't sure what I was doing and get myself in more predicaments. So that's pretty much my journey in a nutshell.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's very specifically now for all of us. I mean, I've experienced a lot of sexual suppression, as I'm sure we all have. It's like we're basically conditioned to suppress our sexual impulses because we don't really know what to do with them. Like we've not really been taught how to use this energy for the benefit of ourselves and for the people who we're with and for everybody. And I feel like one aspect of that is that from the masculine side, we can be quite easily ashamed to express our sexual, sensual side from the fact that we're basically conditioned to try and be like the macho man, you know, and sort of sustain that image without allowing that feminine sensuality in and letting it flourish. Because what we're all essentially doing, whether we realize it or not, is that we're just exchanging energy constantly. So how can we find a way to become more aware of what's actually happening here?
Are you asking me?
Mm.
I guess you are. I think, you know, Todd and I had a head start because we both, you know, we were older and we were sick to death of all the programs and all the games and everything that came with just having sex with people, even if it was, you know, your partners. And, you know, there was always this empty feeling after the performances. And so both of us, fortunately, came to a point, you know, Todd, I think a year or so before I did, I'm done. I've had it. I don't care if I never have sex again. If it's not going to be like a heart-to-heart connection, I'm not interested. I had said the same thing. So I think Todd was celibate for nearly 5 years, and I think I was 3.5, close to 4 years. And in that time, the programming started to disappear. You know, we've got so many programs. I think I was talking to you the other day, Rory, and I said, you know, the man thinks, well, I'm going to take her out for dinner, I'll pay. She's got a program that says, well, he's taking me out for dinner. If he pays, I'm probably going to have to do something. You know, I better shave my legs and shave my arms and sort my bikini line out. And he's, you know, doing what he does. I'm not quite sure what all the men's programs are, but there's all this performance and almost like a ritualistic thing that happens before you're even going to get there. All of that is programs, and it's distorted and it creates disconnection. Now, our genitals want to go forth and party anyway, but you know, you go and do it, and there's is this okay to be this direct?
Yeah,
and at the end of it, it's empty because there's been no real connection. So, you know, I highly recommend to people celibacy. And I'm talking, you know, not just a few weeks, I'm talking like at least a year. And I also recommend to them, even in that time of celibacy, even try celibacy with yourself. Like, leave your toys alone. Leave it all alone and allow the reprogramming to happen. That's one way to do it. I've also got, like in zero pointing, actually going in and finding all those unconscious programs and just getting rid of them straight up. But in that time, you actually start to connect with your own heart. You actually start making deeper friendships with these people, these potential partners. And this heart-to-heart connection really starts to try out. If you think about it, men have spent most of their lives doing everything they can to get into the pussy, and women spend most of their lives doing everything they can to get into the heart. I see that this breakdown of these old programs that aren't even yours. They've come from your parents, they've come from your ancestors, they've come from your peers, they've come from society, they've come from movies or porn or everything else. And we're all tricking each other into believing that, you know, if I'm strangling her, she's really going to be extra turned on and, you know, that's it. But that's not a heart-to-heart connection. I probably sound like an old woman talking like this, but it's so true. Did that answer your question, Rory?
definitely, and so much more.
Okay, too much?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, there's that physical flesh 3D temptation that's there, and it's still lingering. But I mean, we're rising so much more now within ourselves and within the unity of the collective to a point where we're all kind of yearning to want to be in the heart, because we've, as you've said, we've had our fun and we've done all that stuff, and I sense that we're all kind of like yearning just to get to that space in the heart where we can really love each other and feel that so much more, rather than just seeing each other as objects, because we're so much more than that. We're such amazing creations, and we should honor that so much more.
Mm-hmm. I think you're going to get a few marriage proposals by the end of this show.
I can already feel them coming in.
That's, well, and I think, you know, you're like right to your point. I think that's what, you know, like when you were saying, Morgan, where you have sex and it's just all gone, you know, so then you're searching for that again, you know, whether it's in sex again or it's in something else, but you're searching for the energy that you gave away that wasn't the actual merging. That's like giving your actual energy away.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one thing that I had to learn, because, you know, I thought it was more of a free for all, to be honest. You know, like that's the short version of it. But I got, you know, attached to what you were talking about, porn and different things, even since a teenager. And I realized, like, this is not really feeding me anything. And this is actually just draining me. And every time that, you know, I'd get done in any way, whether it was a partner or by myself, it didn't feel like those certain moments. Because I've had those moments where people, you know, when I'm having sex and, you know, or making love, I would say, and I could feel the connection, but I didn't know what it was at that time. I was just like, oh man, this is nice. But then going to the other times where I didn't have that connection, that's what really set me on a path to realize, like, wait, there's something more here than, you know, like you're talking about, just the body. You know, oh, I need to look this way, I need to be prepared in this way. Oh, you know, I need to prepare everything just for sex rather than actual merging with each. That's what really helped me see was the difference of how it truly feels, the difference of the feeling.
That's spot on. It's like, in my experience, once you've experienced the actual merging within, in your own body with no physical contact, it's like that 3D humpty dumpty is not even tempting. It's like no matter how many people want you, you're just like, can't do it. Can you soul merge? Okay then, no. It's not even tempting to go through the lower 3D, because you see how pure in the heart it is, and that's how we're supposed to connect. We're meant to connect our heart before we connect our bodies and connect our minds and everything, and then last connect the root and sacral. And it's like, that's my experience. Once I started learning and experiencing, I wasn't even tempted, and I spent a long time celibate too, because I was just like, no connection unless it's pure heart energy opening with I don't know. I don't know much.
Interestingly, it's that heart connection then that actually opens up a path to sacred sexuality, which is a whole different ball game again. And it almost makes human 3D sex, oh, sorry, I don't like labels, but, you know, human sex almost boring. You know, the things that are possible once that heart-to-heart connection has been made. Men, sorry, tell me if I go too far, but men can ejaculate like for 4 hours without even touching themselves or being touched, because everything's happening. Your higher self is merging with their higher self. Then at some point activates the light bodies. So the light bodies, which are, you know, just immediately outside of ourselves, will do all the work. You can just be holding hands and you're having, you know, multiple female orgasms and male orgasms within your own body. You know, you get to feel exactly what a clitoral orgasm feels like, or the inner bit, which the other orgasm, but she gets to feel, you know, exactly what it feels like for a male to orgasm as well. And you're just laying there holding hands. You know, Todd and I had this experience once, 4 hours, we didn't even do anything. And we're like, didn't even break a sweat. We're just like, holy moly, how did that happen? We're basically just really holding hands and not doing anything sexual at all. And we'd had the best, longest experience of our lives. And I think it was, about 4 o'clock in the morning, I touched his forehead and I'm like, we didn't even break a sweat. We got up, we were giggling like children going, oh my God, how did that happen? It was like a billion times better than just physical sex. Not to say that you don't do physical sex either, but it's a whole different ball game. But that's from the heart to heart connection.
So is that heart to heart connection, is that like the difference between sacred sexual union and just physical sex?
I think so, because I think physical sex, when you orgasm, both men and women can have that moment of like real universal connection. And then it's sort of like it lasts only a few seconds. But when you start, you start practicing, and the more and more you do it, then you actually become aware of your higher selves and your light bodies. And they're all doing all this stuff as well. And it's practice, it didn't happen. I was going to say it didn't happen the first time with Todd and I, but it pretty much did, because we didn't see each other for 18 months. We spoke on the phone every day. Todd hadn't even seen my face, but we were practicing all this dimensional stuff and light body stuff and bilocating and everything. So by the time we met as humans, we both knew each other's bodies to perfection. We knew how to converse with the body itself, not the human, not the mind, but my body will telepath to him exactly what I want and vice versa. And we've never ever been intimate together where any two moments are anything like the moment before. So for us, it's like every time is like the very first time again.
Eve is over here saying just beautiful, beautiful. I've had that experience too, where like telepathically what you desire, they just do it. I mean, not they, because I have not experienced that with hordes of people at all. But my
more
love,
importantly, vice versa too. We're
like,
so in tune with his body
and you just
that
feel
we're
like,
doing things to him that he didn't even know that he might have even liked.
yes,
What a beautiful
that you would
surprise
never
that
think
is.
of.
Yeah.
Yeah, like why would you do that? I just felt like it was needed to happen. Yeah, it's a whole different type of flow, man. That's why I'm glad to see you, meet you, and talk to you. You're like the ultimate expert.
Normally I'd say, oh, don't be silly, but I was actually told last year, do you realize that you're an expert in sex now? And I just cracked up laughing. But I get that I sort of am, because I came in and I went to the darkest experiences of sexual energy via sexual assault and everything. Then I went to a few little dark places, I guess, as a teenager or young woman, performance, all that sort of stuff. And then I've come out the other end, I balanced all of that. So now I'm actually learning about what really is possible. So, a lot of people think, well, like, I feel really ashamed or guilty because I got addicted to porn. But that's their version of, they went down to their darkest version of visiting the dark side of sex. And once they bring balance to that, they actually open themselves up to, actually, no, I want more than this. So, that's like the beginning path for, there's nothing to be ashamed of. Everything that we ever did was absolute perfection.
What would you say might be the best way to balance that out, to get back into a certain state of alignment where we can actually start to really enjoy this and not keep kind of following? I mean, I know that you've got this wonderful setup where you teach how to do this. So it's basically about trying to get back to that 0 point.
Yep.
Sorry, on you go.
First, well, I think I sort of answered that. Celibacy is a very, very powerful way to commence. That's training the body to let go of these 3D attachments, which are just programs. I've got another process which are actually directly 0 points. We find our programs and we 0 point them ourselves. Another way is, by becoming so aware of yourself, you know, meeting your own needs. There's nothing outside of you that can fulfill, you know, fill a hole or fulfill anything anyway, make you feel whole and complete. So I think they're my 3 things that I would highly recommend, to really sit down, write lists. What are my beliefs around sex? Become really, really aware of what programs that you've got running around sex. Well, I can't have sex because, you know, unless my bikini line's sorted, or you know, I've paid for dinner. Like, really get clear on what programs you've got running that you do believe around sex. Because when you sit down and write, you're going to be so amazed at what comes up. What is my resistance to sex? What is my attachment to sex? What is my judgment of sex? And what is my projection of sex? I love that last question, because it's like, what do I wish it was? What is my happily ever after idea of sex? You know, my happy ending and all that sort of stuff. Like, what are my dreams that it should look like? There you're going to find things that you picked up from parents, ancestors, you know, through their DNA and everything. You're going to find all the stuff that you picked up through reading fairy tales, watching Disney movies, reading romance novels for the women, watching porn, you know, all of that sort of stuff. And you're going to have a starting point of, do I really believe that? Do I want to continue and believe it, or do I need to 0 point this and clear it?
I think that's perfect that you're talking about 0 pointing of the heart. And just like what you were talking about, Morgan, that's what I really learned, is it all does start in the heart. And I think for the partner aspect, it's like it is adding in this sexual part through arousal. But, you know, from what I've known, or what I've experienced within my own energy, is you can feel all of that without having to get aroused with those that you're just strictly trying to soul merge with, but not trying to become partners with. And that's whether it's male or female. And it goes back to what you were saying, though, that it starts in the heart, because to me, it's like that's where, you know, we're talking about 0 points, and that's where the sacredness really comes from. And you're not starting from, you know, like you're talking about your genitalia, your vagina, or your dick, whatever way you see it. You're not starting from a place of trying to connect through the physical. You're starting from a place trying to connect through the soul.
Yeah. But I mean, we don't have to ignore what's going on down there either. Be erect, get wet, and allow that, you know, the doorway in is the sacral. Start practicing to allow that energy to rise up to the heart. Sorry, Alina, go on.
Hallelujah. No, I'm not raising my hand. I'm saying hallelujah. It's like
Yeah.
places that were numb, traumatized, and forgotten and left in the dark. I said this earlier. I told Rory about this. It's like there's numb places that are waking up again, being healed, not forgotten anymore. And breathing it up all the way, not leaving it in the lower centers. It's a good way. That's
Yeah.
naturally happening that I noticed. Yeah, it wants to go up.
Yes, it
It's
does
waking
want to
up.
go up, and it gets distracted by, you know, it needs to shoot off. Touch it lovingly,
Distracted.
but it doesn't have to do anything. Hold your penis or hold your vagina and intentionally send that energy up. And you're going to be training your areas to not respond to that initial programming of, oh, I've got an erection, something has to happen with it, but rather, oh, I've got an erection, or I'm turned on, what else can I do with this sacred sexual energy?
Sometimes I go like this, and you see sacral, like belly button, and then one hand up, like anywhere, to make sure that I'm smoothing everything out and not leaving it stuck anywhere lower.
Yeah.
That's the conscious part. Just instead of, I used to not know what was going on. I'd just be like, wow, this is crazy. But when I pay attention and tune into the body, I can see how the energy is flowing. It's very conscious. It's conscious energy flowing in a conscious vessel or something.
Yeah. That energy wasn't always meant to be spent on other people and pleasing them. That energy was first and foremost for us.
Yes, Eve said yes.
I love this.
Very, very much so. Go ahead, brother.
I mean, the signs are pretty much here. I mean, they've always been there. We've just focused our attention elsewhere. Something that I find really amusing is even the word penis and the word spine, it's the same letters, just rearranged. So it's an amazing way to just consider, you know, the way that we perceive things, the way that we shine our light into certain things can shift, can alchemize energy in an instant. And I feel like that's what we're starting to do now. We're all starting to become more aware of the sacred strength that we all came from anyway. I mean, that's what we know. We've spoke a little bit about this, Morgan, in terms of the fact that this is kind of what we know. This stuff is what we're used to. It's just we've forgotten because we came into this world, we went through the veil of amnesia, we got lost in the games, we had our fun, but now we're all starting to return. And it feels like what is used to, it feels like what we know. It feels so much more natural to our heart and our essence of all that we are.
Absolutely.
Very much so. And what you know, to point, what stuck out with what you were saying, Morgan, about, you know, just being able to feel it in the genital area. Yeah, like I would suggest that to everybody. And also say too, it's like you can feel it without even having to feel like you have to have an erection or you're getting wet or getting aroused in that way, but you could still feel it like the orgasmic feeling, as you can feel throughout your whole body when you feel it. It's like a whole body orgasm consistently. It's amazing. So that really stuck out to me when you said that, because yeah, it's not, you know, it's not just the sexual part. That's definitely part of it, and that's definitely sacred. But once tapped into, then it's used continuously, like you were talking about, for our own power consistently, and then we connect with those that truly want to connect in whatever way we're connecting.
Yeah. And there are other magical gifts that come from this. So Todd's and my first probably intimate experience, and I think it was only a few weeks before we got married, we were given specific instruction. And it was a little bit funny for us because we hadn't seen each other naked or anything, but the higher selves or the energy came in and said to Todd, you're to spend a half an hour on her right breast. You're not allowed to kiss her. You're not allowed to touch her. You're not allowed to do anything about your own arousal or anything. Just spend time on that breast. So I'm like, oh gosh, okay, well, I guess we have to do this at some point. So I pulled my boob out and he spent a half an hour on that breast. Now it was exquisite, and a portal opened up from it. And then he went away, and we were staying with this lady. So I was sort of giggling and laughing with her and said, oh my God, that was an amazing experience. This huge big portal opened up. It was all this information came through. The whole room filled up with these golden particles, which we were told to send to Soulogy. And we're sort of, we didn't see Todd for hours. And he came back, sorry, Todd, I hope you don't mind me sharing this. I don't think you will. He was gone for hours. After about 3 hours, he came upstairs. He's nearly in tears, like almost crying. He said, how do I make it stop? How do I make it stop? He'd been downstairs suffering hundreds of female orgasms, like hundreds of them. Like he said, I've had 2 cold showers. I don't know what to do with this. That was his first experience. So, you know, something fairly innocent that, you know, there was some boundaries put in. Okay, just do this.
Getting hot and sweaty from
So the next day, we're like, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, same thing again. This time he had to do the left breast. Exactly the same thing happened. But each breast was showing him, okay, the right breast, I can't remember exactly, I think was life force energy. The left breast was nurturing. And then we had a day off. And then the 4th day, he was told, okay, now just do both breasts. But he wasn't allowed to do anything else. He wasn't allowed to kiss me. He wasn't allowed to do anything. It was just that. So, you know, we were given specific instructions. And what it taught us was you know, that was just the breast. But, you know, I think another day he started discovering that every single part of my body, if he loved it straight from his heart, actually opened up other portals and other energetic information and everything. And same with his body as well. You know, the males also have these areas, these sensuous areas all over their bodies that no one's even taught us about. And we've just been taught to focus on his lips and his penis, maybe his balls, or, you know, but there's all these other parts of the masculine that is lit up with all this sensuous energy as well, and full of portals too. Like, why would you want to do wham bam thank you ma'am when all this other stuff is available? Sorry, Rory.
No, this just sounds, I could just sit here and just hear this for hours. I'm just so fascinated, and to be honest, part of me is really excited and kind of yearning to experience this, because it does sound so transcendent. It sounds really something like so much more than, it feels like we've just been playing with scraps, you know, compared to what we are actually capable of. And I think what you said there about the body is so valuable, because I mean, I've even had a lot of experience in my life where I really didn't like the body. I kind of felt shame. I scarred myself, and just because I didn't want to be here, I didn't want to be in this vessel. And reconnecting with just how precious it is amazing. And it's just so fantastic to hear you speak this way, because everything that you're saying just connects to us to a really profound level that within me is there. I know this, and we all do, but we've just forgotten about it. But it seems like we're starting to come back here now, and I'm just so honored that you've shared this vulnerability, because that is power, as it's been shown here. This, what you're saying and what you're sharing, it's so transformative and it's so healing. It's incredible. So thank you so much.
You're welcome. And it doesn't feel vulnerable to me at all. I feel like, oh my goodness, why didn't everyone tell us about this? And you're right, we have innate intelligence about this. We really do. We've sort of, you know, got a bit lost over in that other stuff, which, I mean, that was fun too, but not like this. This is a whole different ball game. You know, sometimes Todd he'll kiss me for 5 minutes. I'm like, go, get away from me, get away from me. The power from his love that comes through is so strong. In fact, a few times I've actually vomited, which is funny, and he nearly has too. I'm like, oh my goodness, you try to turn your wife on and you have to get out of bed and be sick. But it's not, it's from the power that's actually coming through our body. Yeah. It's not from, and it's like, oh, that's it, that's enough for tonight, 5 minutes of kissing, no more, get away from me, get on your own side of the bed, or vice versa. But that's, God, we've missed out on so much. So no, this doesn't feel vulnerable at all. It really doesn't. It feels like this is actually normal. I feel more vulnerable if you ask me to discuss what my old sex life was like, then I'd feel vulnerable, and I'd probably feel ashamed, and, you know, at all the performance I was doing and all the programs I was living.
Is this, so then from your experience, is this more of a one-to-one in physical form? Would it just be you and Todd? I mean, I know that we can all soul merge together from the heart, but is there, would you say, a kind of sacred union just of two souls that come together? And, or is this something that you experience with other people as well?
Gosh, that's a tricky question. I don't know, because it's only been Todd. I mean, I absolutely merged with lots of other people. There was no part of me who wanted to fly over to America or India or whoever I was merging with and be with them. I'm not quite sure how that works. You know, I would hope that we'd be able to have these connections with whoever we choose to, you know, but I think that integrity, authenticity, honesty, directness, you know, all these people are playing games with each other. Women would rather men come up and say, I find you really attractive. I'd love to sleep with you one day, but I'd really like to get to know you first. That'd be the best pickup line you could ever have. And vice versa. Women came directly to you and said, I really admire you. I'm not interested in having sex yet, but I would love to get to know you over the next few months and see what happens. This is the heart-to-heart connection that we've all missed out on because we've been playing our ancestors' programs and roles. So I don't know, Rory. I've got it with Todd. I don't have any interest in having it with anyone else. If anything happened to us and we decided to split or one of us passed or whatever, I would absolutely hope that he would find this with somebody else. And I think he would want the same for me too.
Yeah, I feel like you answered it amazingly there, because the fact that unconditional love, it is not the same as the human emotional love that we've been involved in, because when we get into that space, all we want is for ourselves and for anybody else to be happy with whatever they want to do in their life. And when we feel into that vibration, you know, that's the best thing for us and for everybody.
Absolutely. Love doesn't have ownership or codependency or, you know, you need to meet my needs. Love just doesn't have that. You know, true love is both individuals are very individual within themselves. You know, Todd, when we got married, Todd said to me, oh, good, we're going to be together forever now. And I'm like, no, that's not what that means. We'll be together for every day that both of us choose. Yes, let's do another day of this again today.
Anybody else want to say anything? I'm completely bowled over. It's been fantastic.
I mean, I definitely like to definitely emphasize on the point, especially just like with what, you know, a lot of what's said about and what's came through me in my experiences. And I've heard it from so many, just like what you were saying, Rory, you know, a lot of us are waking up to this. And to me, that's the base aspect of it for me is merging with other people's souls. And it's like we could feel the whole body. Every part of the body is a part of it, but no one part of the body is like accentuated. And it's really just merging with each other's souls. It's like the experience that I just had, you know, I know I went a little bit too overboard on my way, but it was good because it was all like when I went into it sacredly. Like I don't want none of the, like you were saying, Morgan, like we've all talked about that, just the physical hanky panky, try to get one off real quick. I was, you know, directing it in the way where I was like, I only want the soul merging, and you know, more stuff happened. I won't get into all the details for respect to the other person, but that's when I learned like I can merge with them either just in soul or I can also connect, you know, sexually. But I look for myself personally. I learned I want that with a partner. Now, just like we're talking, like Morgan was talking about, you know, the partner will see like I will. It's like every day we're gonna try to renew each other, and it's not gonna be like, oh, just because we have, you know, any marriage contract that's going to bind us together. It's like it's always gonna be a constant choice to be together, but you know, for the partner aspect and merging just like, you know, or yeah, adding in the sexual part as far as, you know, congruence, that's how it is for me. But as far as the sacredness of this, to me, it's really the soul merging, and we can all do it. Because to me, the soul mergings, the androgynous part, that's the feminine and masculine, and it doesn't care, you know, like what you were saying, Morgan, about love doesn't care. It's like it just wants to love and it just wants to connect. And that's the beautiful, beautiful part and the sacred part I see about all of this is that we can all do it, the ones that are going into it wholeheartedly, going in it from the heart and expanding it together. But, you know, it's beautiful either way, but, it, you know, as a collective, we can just do it without even having to add in the sex part and only choose that for the ones that we really feel guided to, or the one that we really feel guided to.
That's right. There's something powerful that happens when you meet someone and you actually just take sex off the table. All that pressure for him and for her go away, and the two people actually start really connecting. And then you'll work out, do I want to take this further with this person or don't I? There's something really powerful in just like, no, this isn't happening. Let's really just get to know each other and see if we do want to take it any further or take it into intimacy or whatever. If nothing else happened, you're going to make a lot of really great heart-to-heart connections and great friends.
And that's what we want, eh? Like, that's what we all want. We just want to be, we want to feel love. We want to be loved. We want to connect with others without any limitations, without anything in the way that's what we want.
What do you got, Alina?
A pregnant pause. I just long silence about absorbing all this. I got sweat drops activations going on from you guys talking. Just talking.
That's awesome.
The 100th monkey effect is in effect.
Yeah.